All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Michael Hines. I'm the proud superintendent of schools for the Port Washington School District. Welcome to our community forum, and we have some very special guests joining us this evening. Tonight, we have Dr. David Mioli. He is one of our esteemed and veteran principals at Sousa Elementary School. We also have Regina McLean. She is a Weber teacher extraordinaire, and also she's the PWTA president. So we're very thankful that she's joining us this evening. And then finally, we have parent Julie Epstein, who's the HSA president. She was actually with us. We didn't have an episode last week, but we had one the week before, and we're very thankful that she's taking the time out this evening to join us as well. So I'm going to start with Dr. Mioli with our first question. And the first question really for everybody is, so for those of us who are watching this evening, is to give a better sense of who our three guests are. So I'm going to ask them to just tell us a little bit about themselves as far as the role that they are in, and if they wouldn't mind, how long they've been in Port Washington. And David, I hope you don't take offense to me asking that, because I know you have been here for a long time, and we have all benefited from that. So I turn it over to you, sir.
Too late. The cue card didn't say veteran, it said ancient, so I appreciate the substitute adjective there. Dave Mioli, I am the Sousa Elementary School principal. I am finishing my 19th year in that role. And before that, I was the Director of Creative Arts here in Port Washington for 12 years. So you can do the math, or you can do it as an extension activity later on. I feel about as much a part of this community, I think, as anybody. And I've been very fortunate to work with a lot of great people, great parents, great administrators, great teachers, and I'm happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Regina, if you wouldn't mind, just share a little bit about yourself. Thank you.
Sure. So Regina McLean, I am a Weber PEP teacher. I have worked in every single school in this district, with the exception of Schreiber. I've been here since 1997. And fun fact was, my first job in 1997 was I was actually the technology staff developer. So I was the person who was in charge of helping teachers learn personal computers. I mean, this was back when we were just getting computers in schools. And so that's one of the reasons why I worked in every school in the district. So I don't know, 1997, is that 23 years? I guess it's 23 years. And another thing is that I'm also a parent in this community, and I've lived here. Let's see, my son just turned 18. We had a Zoom birthday party. And so we've been here, I guess, for 17 years. So just another thing about me, I'm a parent as well in the district. And we've been really fortunate to have, in fact, my son went to Sousa. So Dr. Mioli was my son's principal. So I've been very fortunate to have my child go through the schools here. And it's really been just a great experience for him. It's hard to believe it's actually ending.
Well, thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. Now, Julie, if you don't mind, I'm going to ask you the same thing. As a parent in our school district and HSA president, just give us a little bit of your background, please.
Yes, so my family and I have been here for 4.5 years in Port Washington. I started out as the HSA president at Salem, and now am the co-president for Parents Council. I have a current Weber student and a Schreiber freshman, and also serve on the Weber executive board. So I'm making my volunteer rounds around the school district.
Yes, you certainly are. And in my short tenure here, I should say, you've been very helpful to me. So that's always appreciated. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my first question, I'm going to start off with Dr. Mioli, and maybe Dr. Mioli, you can talk about maybe two different edges, two different perspectives. One is how is your building doing per se, as far as your staff, maybe your parents, as far as what you're hearing and seeing, and because it's been a month, and now we know as of today, the governor has now extended all schools in New York State will be out until May 15th. So that's another month. And I think for some of us, maybe it's a deep sigh of relief because we want to make sure that everyone is healthy before we move back. but another month is, it's a long time. So I know that you're always in touch with your parents and your staff and the kids. Maybe just give us a little bit of an update there, please.
Sure. Well, I just need to add a fun fact too. Regina and I also shared an almost empty building together when she first started out. We both had offices at Salem when it was mostly a storage facility back in the dim 90s. Um, so, this has been a journey, I think, for all of us. If you think back, we started on March 12th. We left school. I think it was 5 weeks ago today, um, thinking we were going to be out for 2 days, in an abundance of precaution, I think the term was. And that turned into 2 weeks and four, and now it's gone on. So I really look at it as an evolving situation. We were all kind of caught a little unawares. Uh, we didn't even bring stuff home with us that we need, because we were expecting to be back in the relatively near future. So I think my role as principal, and I think all of the principals in Port Washington would agree, is really to try to facilitate this kind of shift over in an evolving sense. We started off um, just really trying to concentrate on review materials and just getting some content out to students and making sure that students could connect. I mean, that was a big kind of part of our job. Getting Chromebooks and iPads to students who were needy, making sure that there was Wi-Fi established. And before I go any further, I need to do a tremendous shout out to Ryan Maloney and the whole tech department. So don't cut me off, okay, guys? But they've been doing a yeoman's job. They've been working 24/7, and they've been teaching us and troubleshooting, and they've really been wonderful. But yeah, so we've been evolving. As a veteran administrator, I probably have the least technology savvy of anyone in my building. So there's been a learning curve for me too. And I think that once we moved past that first 2 weeks, and we really knew that it was going to be a longer period of time, and we started moving towards direct virtual instruction, I've seen a big change in my building, and I know we're in touch almost every day, the principals. I know we all have seen that too. Is it perfect? No. Could it be better? Yes. But the learning curve has been there, and there's the sense of community among the educators has been amazing. I have paras volunteering to translate phone calls. I have teachers helping each other across schools, never mind across grade levels. Again, the technology department has been helping the teachers to fly the airplane while we're fixing it. It's just been I think a slow but steady evolution, and that's kind of the way I look at it. So my job hasn't really changed from the real world to the virtual world. I mostly, try to, solve problems, clear obstacles, and stay out of the way. The teachers are good at their craft. It's really getting them into the platforms and programs and apps and all of those things that they need to do to deliver what is such a personal activity normally in a remote sense. And I think they're doing a good job of it.
Great, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to ask the same thing to you, Regina, if you wouldn't mind, just your thoughts as far as what's going on.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on some of what Dave was saying about the learning curve and how much learning has gone on. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to my mind is when you talk about teachers doing planning, the thing that they really needed to do in this situation where we were not prepared for, this is an emergency situation. This is not distance learning. This is emergency remote learning, is all the professional development that they've gone through. We had that one day of professional development, and it's continued. And I don't know if people know that, they're doing professional development during the day. Jackie Gilmartin, our technology staff developer, has offered, I think, about 17 different live meetings. And if you can't attend the live meeting, or if you need to go back and revisit the training, you can go back, it's recorded, and you can look at it another time. And she's done so many things from Google Classroom. You know, some teachers didn't know Google Classroom going into this, particularly in the primary grades. She's done things on other softwares like Epic Books and Flipgrid and all these different things. So that's really the first thing. The teachers have undergone a tremendous amount of professional development. They continue. I mean, we continue to evolve and experiment. And some things are actually kind of exciting. We're bouncing around some ideas. We haven't quite formulated how to do it yet, but we're getting there, and we're starting to figure out new ways to solve some of the curricular or delivery issues that we see. So that's one thing people should know about. And Jackie really has done a tremendous job, and she is part of the technology department. She is a teacher, so she really understands how to integrate the technology with education. And teachers have also been attending Nassau BOCES trainings online. Also, there's a lot of companies out there like Scholastic Books and different places doing trainings. I know I was in two webinars last week I personally attended with a trainer called AJ Giuliani, and we looked at what's working. That was what the webinar was called, What's Working. So there's a lot of collaborating also going on, teachers helping one another. If they're having a tech problem, you know, we're texting each other, or we're emailing each other, we're picking up the phone and calling each other, helping each other through, and then just meeting and talking and trying to figure out how to do this and try something. If it doesn't work, well, we ditch it. If it works, but it needs to be tweaked, we tweak it and we try it again. We listen to the students' feedback and the parents' feedback, and we say, okay, that didn't work, or that's really going well. So, you know, we've made a lot of progress, and I think it's continuing to evolve. It's not the same as being in the class with the students. You know, something that like I might do a quick 5-minute lesson with my kids live in person. Now I have to go and record that. And you think, oh, it's 5 minutes. But when you're learning the new technology and then there's a glitch in the middle, you know, I've had teachers tell me, I passed a teacher on the street recently. She said, Regina, it took me 4 hours to create, you know, a 10-minute video. I had another colleague tell me today, it took me 3 days to create that 5-minute video, you know, because either you do something wrong, you misspeak, you have to re-record, or the technology, you know, you're learning a new technology. So, you know, we have made a lot of progress, but it is not the same as being in the classroom. You know, it's just things that we can do so easily. While technology is a great tool and we love it and we embrace it, in some ways, it makes things more challenging. It makes things slower. And just that connection with the kids is just, you know, it's not the same. So it is a challenge, but I do believe we're working through it. We're seeing some innovative things happening. But, you know, I guess that's about it.
No, I
Yep.
appreciate that. It's
Yep.
I know how hard our administrators and teachers have been working over the past several weeks, and I can tell you the board and certainly I very much appreciate it. So we heard from a administrator perspective, we've heard from a teacher perspective. Now, Julie, I'm going to ask from a parent perspective, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
Just overall thoughts as far as what's been happening, and what you're hearing from parents, and so on and so forth.
I'd say overall, it was a rocky start in the beginning. I think every parent was they were going through their own learning curve also, trying to balance the new home life of working from home. Now they're the, teacher as well, the tech support, the cook, the cleaner, the janitor, everything. You've now wearing more hats than you ever thought you could ever own. And so that curve was really great for the parents as well. The benefit that we do have in Port Washington is that we have wonderful parent organizations that are collecting feedback, are in constant conversation with their principals, with teachers, with yourself, the Board of Ed, and we were able to relate some of those, challenges that parents were experiencing and, you know, work together and collaborate to try and find a balance. And I think that we just needed to have some time. I know that the answers did not come along, quickly for everyone, but as we're moving into this, 1 month period, that learning curve is getting less, and we're seeing more of an evolution as opposed to just a learning. But this homeschooling thing for parents is a lovely recipe of a little bit of balance, a little bit of chaos, and a little bit of humor. And, we're just trying to mix it all up the best we can.
No, I appreciate that, and I definitely agree. One of the things that I grapple with as an educator and as a parent is the balance, as you said, Julie. Um, but I have to say, like, I am not a big fan of, I will say, just children in general or adolescents being on the screen too much, and what that entails. And I try to think of what's happening here because there's so many different negative edges around it, whether it's economic, whether it's academic or cognitive, clearly because kids are not engaged in school in the same way as Regina said, um, or from a wellness standpoint. But I do think we will find, or I'm hoping we have found, there are some silver linings here. There are some pockets of positivity, of ingenuity, and ways that our kids at home can benefit from what's happening. And it's not necessarily, I will say, let's say, coming from the school as an assignment. I try to look at this opportunity. When will we have another time, and I'm thinking in our lifetimes, where kids are allowed to potentially be bored and what that means? And I'm saying that not in a way like I'm it sounds weird. I'm like, I want kids to be bored. Yeah, because you know what happens when kids are bored and they actually start using their minds and it starts wandering, those pockets of creativity and trying things they've never tried before. That's what I'd like to see hopefully come from here. So, without getting too technical and too into the weeds of maybe some things that you may have heard or seen that you are finding that either parents are doing or teachers are doing or children are doing that are new and different from what was happening before because of the time constraints of school and after school activities and the such. Have any of you heard any stories of kids embarking on things that are new and different that maybe didn't happen before, or even teachers or adults trying something that's new and different?
I can speak to that as a parent and as a teacher. So not so much lately because there's been schoolwork, but when we first were out of school, um, those first few days, my son was going and taking out all his old toys. Now this is an 18-year-old boy, and he was building these like marble mazes, and then I was still allowing him to go to his girlfriend's house, and then they were building the marble maze at her house and then videotaping it and like putting music to it. And then he started going through his hockey cards that he hasn't looked at since he was probably 10 years old, right? And then and just doing things with his hockey cards. And then speaking as a teacher, that was my first assignment personally as a teacher to my students, was tell me what you're doing. And I had students telling me, I'm learning Japanese, I'm learning Spanish, I'm learning how to bake. They're just trying all of these different things because being on the screen all day long actually turns out to be not that much fun. When you're working at school all day long and then you come home, the screen is like a little release. But when you're on it all day long, it loses its excitement. So kids they are experimenting and playing around with different things. But I haven't heard my students talking about it as much and seen my son since we've sort of started on more schooling. They're focusing on the schooling more now.
Great. Thanks for sharing that, Regina. Julie or David, anything that you wanted to add before I ask my last question? Because I know
Oh,
time is going very quickly. Julie?
well, I'll just say I know I've spoken to other parents, and it's sad that we have to say this, but like kids are learning to load and unload the dishwasher. I know my children, their Corona COVID-19 gift was a toilet wand, and I showed them how to clean the toilet with it. So that's probably very embarrassing that I'm saying this now in this community forum. But things like that, making your bed, learning how to do your laundry, how to prepare a meal. We've actually had a moment to pause and do things like that. And I will say, from a parent's perspective, and my children are in middle school and high school, we're even seeing like really meaningful conversations come out of it that we actually have time for. I think in the past we did have conversations, but we were really able to just take a moment and listen to each other and hear each other and move forward. I also appreciate seeing the myriad of people riding their bikes around in the neighborhood. I haven't seen that in the 4.5 years that we've lived here. So I do see things like that happening, and it's nice. And other parents are expressing that as well, kind of just being able to live in a casual way.
Thank you. I appreciate that. David, anything you wanted to add before I ask my last question?
No, really, I think I'm seeing the same things. Both of my kids, thank God, are out of the house, and so, but they're both essential workers, and so they're in a different place. But I'm certainly seeing. I've been in my neighborhood here for 20 years, and I'm seeing activity I've never seen before.
Yeah.
Too.
It is. It's like a throwback in some ways. It's like we're back in a time machine. It is very interesting. So here's something that I know is on everybody's mind. So I'm just going to put it out there. It's the what if, right? So it's the what if we don't come back to school until September, and what does that mean? And it's something that I think about a lot, because I think about what it means to our seniors. I think about what it means even to our eighth graders who are moving up, and our fifth graders who will be moving up as well. I think about what it means to our parents. I mean, clearly, graduation, prom, junior prom, all those different things. And then you think about grading and what's going to happen with grading for the fourth quarter. What's going to happen with, you know, our many students who are looking to go to different universities and colleges, and what that process looks like. And as we are navigating through this in real time, our job as a school district is to keep everyone informed as soon as possible. I know some people want it sooner. I think the balance there is giving either not enough information because it's too soon, or misinformation. So we don't want to do that. That's for sure. I had a wonderful conversation with two juniors yesterday for the Schreiber Times, and that was brought up. It was part of the discussion. I think what I was most impressed with our two juniors, Noah and Emily, was their understanding that these are unprecedented times. That they're not happy about it at all. I think there's a lot of anxiety that's there. There's a lot of maybe resentment or anger. I'm not saying with the students. I think for some cases, a lot of people. And the question becomes, when do we know? When do we find out? And when do we start executing those particular things? And I can tell you right now, we're talking about that as administrators. Clearly, we're talking about these things at the Board of Education level. But I just want everyone to know, as soon as we know, we will let the community at large know. And I think that feedback loop is critically important. So I just wanted to say that before I go into the last segment of our conversation. It's the first thing I think about in the morning, and it's the last thing I think about before I go to bed, if I ever do, just like all of us, right? Because these are very interesting times for sure. So the last thing is, I know in the backdrop of where Julie is, she has this wonderful acronym or sign, right? Julie, can you tell me what that stands for, please?
Sure, I'm stealing from John Krasinski from The Office, or Jack Ryan, if you know him that way. He's doing a podcast from his home called Some Good News, SGN, where he said the news doesn't always have to be so sad and depressing, and in this time now, we really should be sharing some good news.
So, since you just had that wonderful intro, is there, or do you have some good news that you'd like to share with the viewers here?
Of course I do. Yeah, so we're very excited from a parent perspective. I know it's slow going, but it's nice for us to see that the seniors were delivered signs from the Gamble organization, the parents who volunteered to help put on the Gamble through the HSA. They were able to put their 2020 graduation signs out on seniors' lawns so that they had something to look forward to, and that part of our year will not be missed. We see that the elementary schools are having their plant sales. Some of them they're doing virtual online um, morning announcements with their students and announcing the birthdays for them. Some schools are even able to do virtual play dates with the class moms, and so we're really happy to see that everyone's trying to connect in some way. And last but not least, in order, and also stealing from John Krasinski, he always brings Lin Manuel Miranda on or some famous star. We don't have, I don't have a relationship with any of those people, but we do have Allison Friedman and we have Stacy Medford, two teachers here. And every year they do curtains up with the Hearts organization with the fourth and fifth graders to put on a production. And right now, those fourth and fifth graders would be in the midst of performing and practicing to put on a great production for June. And they were unable to, but they were able. I'm doing it the old fashioned way. Can you see on my phone here? Oh,
Yeah.
wait. Oh, wait, that's not it. Hold on. See, I had a technical difficulty there. They're able to put on their Annie Jr.
You want me to
virtual
tap
girl.
dance while you're doing that?
Yes, hold on. Can you see now? Let's see if I have. They have all the students
Oh, wow.
participating, singing the song, and how wonderful that it's tomorrow with that positive, upbeat outlook.
Oh my God.
And there they all are.
Thank you, Hans, for all that you do. Without you, Annie wouldn't be possible.
There we go. You got that last part. But I think that's like some of the best news that you can share when you see that the teachers are able to collaborate that way, the students are able to come together, and you see that, and just having those little pieces and glimmers of light are really our best some good news that we can really have.
Thank you for sharing that. I haven't stopped smiling since you pressed play. That was awesome. Thank you, Julie. That was wonderful. And I think it's gonna be hard to top that, to be honest with you. So thank you for setting the benchmark so high. Regina, I'm gonna turn it over to you. Some good news on your end, please.
Yeah, don't want to have to go after Julie. That really wasn't fair. I will say some more musical good news is I think we're going to be having another virtual choir, and it really is just I mean, it's an interesting way to come together and work together, and we're seeing more of those kinds of things being brainstormed right now. I know I have this expression TTT, things take time. You know, they really do, but we're getting some great things going. But I also want to just say that I know that some of our teachers have been sewing masks, and I'm not exactly sure where those masks are going. I just know that we have several of our teachers who are sewing masks, and also our nurses have been volunteering at testing stations at Jones Beach and also on Staten Island. Not all of them, but some of them have been there, and some of the other nurses have been putting together food packages at St. Peter's for delivery to the families. So I think that's some really good news. And that'll be it. I'll give it to you, Dave.
So let's see. I think there was a dare on the table that to have me sing this. So I will have to sing. I will have to do my usual Regina Cheli, Regina Cheli, Regina Cheli, letare, letare. So you have to look that one up.
That's a little thing Dave and I used to do back at Salem School in the 90s.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
We would sing.
this is like TMI. I think, yeah, we can move on. But you know, I think part of the problem is that we don't know when it's going to end, and we don't know if we're coming back. So the planning is like, you know, it's so disjointed. If we had a plan, we could actually make a plan. But you know, because I've been around for a long time, my first full week on the job at Sousa was actually September 11th, 2001, and you know, that was a crisis and a half. And you know, we got through it. This community got through it. There was a lot of pain, but there was a lot that we learned from it and a lot that we gained from it. And I'm sure that that will happen here again. And I think, you know, all these things are learning experiences. We talk about lifelong learning, and look how much, you know, we've learned as we move forward. So I think we'll come out better and stronger, and I'm looking forward to that, whatever the plan is.
Thank you, David. Yeah, I would agree with you. So I would say for me, last week we had the opportunity to deliver some technology to our students' homes. For our primary students, K through 2, we delivered on buses iPads to those families that needed it. And I was fortunate enough to be on one of those bus runs, and so I got to meet some families and some students from a distance, of course, and yes, with the mask on. But the good news was is the success rate of the deliveries was well over 90%, which I'm really thrilled about, because that is, listen, if we're talking about remote learning, I think there are a couple different edges here. One is the technology that's involved. The other is, of course, the teacher, you know, sharing the content, and then the students actually receiving it and being there. So it's hard to do both if you don't have the technology there. So I'm very thankful that that happened, and we want to continue to make sure that all of our families, their basic needs at the very least are being met, right? So we talk about basic needs, whether it's food, shelter, so on and so forth. And I think the district and many community members and organizations within the community, as you always do here in Port Washington, you kick it up a notch or two or even three when the going gets tough. And I think people are, actually, I know, are very thankful for that. Just like I'm very thankful for the three of you joining us this evening. And for anybody who's watching, thank you as well. Next week's conversation will focus on wellness. We'll focus on mental health and some expert advice as far as what we can do for our families and for our children who need some extra supports as we all move through this together. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it. And for everyone who's watching, have a wonderful evening. Thank you.